New Black Leadership Coalition here live in the great studios of Intellectual Radio. My name is Gregory Singh, one of the hosts and co-founders of the New Black Leadership. I am so honored and so blessed with this golden opportunity once again to come to you all over these precious airwaves that we take very, very serious, and we really feel good about sincerely sending words, sending messages, and really our love, even though at times it might come off as a spanking to some people. But just like mama, she loved you. Daddy loved you. And so Granny loved you. And some spanking is absolutely what you need. And I do have some spanking for some of you all tonight. So nevertheless, I am very honored. We are honored and blessed to have with us on this really chilly evening, spring evening, our brother, our friend, the one and only from WBGX 1570 AM radio, the really popular radio show on Tuesdays through Fridays from 2 to 4. We have here in the studio live in person, none other than the one and only Mr. Butt Naked Truth Harold Davis in the studio. What an honor and a pleasure, Brother Harold, to have you here. I'm going to give a quick commentary, and then we can get right started. And the commentary tonight, brother, is called Disingenuous. Disingenuous. And it really simply means, and the reason why I'm bringing this up was I looked and saw somebody texted to me, and I saw it over Facebook, and it was this unity breakfast that some of the brothers and sisters with others had. I have no problem with unity, is which we really need. I mean, we really need unity. But I found that to be very disingenuous, so fast, so soon. And I mean, when you look at the word, it means not candid, nor sincere, and typically pretending. And if you read some of the synonyms, it says hypocritical, lying, deceit. That's Webster now. That's not Gregory. And the reason I'm saying that is if you have the gall, if you have the urgent, necessary need that we really do need unity, whether you call yourself a Democrat or Republican, as Black people, and those of you that claim to represent us, you should be ashamed of yourselves because you don't unify with a lot of folks who really will keep you honest, folks who have integrity, people that make their word bond, folks who are not in the room just to be there, to go along, to get along. See, if that's your leadership quality, then you disqualify to lead Black people with, you hear it all the time. We unifying around this and that, but not the real people in the room. And I felt I felt a little something when I saw even Congressman Danny Davis skinning and grinning. You skinning and grinning, man. And it's like, have you tried to reach out to the minister and say, Brother Farrakhan, I'm just weak. I'm just scared. And he'll get it. Because we do know there are people who are afraid of their own shadow. So, hey, brother, love you, but very disappointed that you continue to play this game. Now, those children, and I want to say this to you, you should have really been paying attention to Naomi in Washington, D.C., the 11-year-old young lady that was speaking. That's why the scripture said, out of the mouth of babes. See, And you all 80, 85, 90, almost 100, and you claim to be leading our people. Harold, you have, and I want you to respond to my commentary because you call it, I can't think of the word that you call it, but I'm sure you tell the audience exactly how do you refer to them at that particular age. Nothing wrong with you being 100 and strong, but if you using the same tactics, the same strategies, and playing games about, I mean, I get so disturbed. I heard it, and I'm through with the commentary, bro Harold, but I heard someone talking about contracts for black folks in the state. They were focusing in on the state, and they were talking about how black people have all these key democratic positions, and they name Tony Pretwinkle as being, big, and they looked at the county jail, and they looked at the hospital, and they found decimal contracts for black people. And I mean, we keep making excuses of why black people don't have contracts. We look around, we see construction, we see buildings going up, and then we got black folks who always want to talk about a black agenda. Man, stop that. We already know what we need and what we want. Some of it is on two fronts. Some of it is do for self. Nothing else that is going to, fix that. We got to do for self. And then the other one is, as Minister Michael have brought to my and others' attention, we have to be an organized vote, an organized political force, that we speak from a position of power, and that you don't hear. I haven't heard it yet. Have you?
No.
I haven't heard anybody talk about an organized vote. And that's why you all, when you don't show up at the New Black Leadership Coalition roundtable meetings, you miss something, and then you really come off as suspect because you claim to be speaking for us, but you scared to come in the room with other voices, other leaders, other activists, other organizers. And that means either you hiding something or don't want to be challenged. That's all. And we do it with love and respect and honor, but you cannot be afraid to look us eye to eye and tell us what's really on your mind, what you really are trying to do. And if you're doing it to be vain, and if you're doing it to be seen of people, then you're never going to be successful. So, Brother Harold, I know that's not a lot because, I listen to the Butt Naked Truth. So there's like lightweight compared to what comes out of your mouth on the air. So, hey, man, I'm like kid gloves when it comes to you, Minister Michael, and Chairman Fred. It's some heavyweights, brother, that's part of the New Black Leadership Coalition, but it ain't out of spite. It's out of necessity, man. And we don't have time to play with folks who are afraid of white male supremacy. You're afraid of your own shadow when you can sit down with anybody, man, and make sure you're brokering not for your own bag, but for the quality of life for your people. But Brother Harold, what's up with you, brother? I know.
Well, I mean, when you look at this big meeting they had Saturday, I think Kennedy was in the room, Danny Davis, all the Democrats were there, and they were talking about unity. And then at the same time, they were having this march about our lives, the Young March.
Right.
And they were, it was 745 or 750 events with young people around the country.
Wow, that many.
Right. Think about 90,000 were in Union Park. And D.C. they had 500,000. But in the last 2.5 years, we've had 166 black teenagers under the age of 16 that were murdered. And nobody saw the need to unify in terms of black children in Chicago. I'm not talking about around the country. I'm talking about right here in Chicago. In the last 28 months, 166 black teenagers under the age of 16 have been murdered. And they faces not on anybody. I mean, if you don't even, we probably can't even mention any of their names. We probably don't even know any of them by name. But these 14 or so that's in Florida, their names are in the news every single day. And I think 5 of the young people were Jewish descent. And so you know how the Jewish community feels about their children.
Oh, absolutely.
And we should be feeling the same way about our children. And I had some preachers call me saying they're going to use this platform to springboard on what the platform should have been here. No, you should have been doing this in Chicago. I mean, we shouldn't have. I mean, we had 166 teenagers under the age of 16 laying in somebody's cemetery, and nobody said anything prior to that. The issue with voting, 29% came out to vote. The millennials who claim that they want to be heard, only 3% of them showed up to vote. 29%, and that means 71% of the people in the black community stayed home.
Wow.
And so while Pritzker is celebrating a victory, it was 700,000 people that didn't vote for Pritzker. And so while he's spiking the football at the goal line, I mean, the game has just started. You heard Ronna. Ronna said last week, he said, I got some things I'm going to show y'all who he is. And so what is Ronna going to show the Negro so-called leadership that they don't already know? And how many times are they going to be willing to forgive Pritzker in terms of these FBI tapes that are coming out? Is Pritzker going to be heard denouncing other black people? And
I heard Valerie Jarrett. I don't know if that's true.
I heard Valerie Jarrett.
Something with her.
Maybe Obama, maybe, but whatever it is, that billionaire Ronna, he has the richest man in the state. What's his name? The boy that loans his plane out to Ronna.
Richard and Ronna.
Yeah, he's richer than Ron. He's the richest. He's the richest person in the state of Illinois.
Lord.
And he runs that hedge fund called Citadel, and he just bought he just bought 2 or 3 floors somewhere downtown, and he's renovating it to the tune of $50 million.
For what?
He's renovating this condo unit
just for,
and so he has deep pockets, and he's going to be dropping a lot of money. And so in terms of what Ronna is planning, it's going to be interesting to see if Pritzker is willing to put another 125 million. That they're talking about is going to be a $250 million race, and at the end of the day, it's just going to be commercials and who can tell the most negative publicity about the other person. But at the end of the day, I mean, very little dollars are going to trickle into the black community.
Well, let me ask you this, because I want to ask you something about McCarthy. But if you look at, I haven't heard many of the conversations. I've heard some, but when you look at both candidates, black people being in the room, political people, business people, and some preachers and a few other so-called activists. Yeah, so-called. What are they discussing when it comes to how do you redistribute the wealth? I mean, how do you go and take, I'm gonna say use the word take. The people in Winnetka and Willings and Highland Park. I mean, you look at Dalton, you look at the Harvey, etc. How do you fix that whole? That's why I'm saying, it's a twofold fight, But what are you hearing, or what do you feel need to be said in the rooms as far as contracts between both of them? What are they promising black folk for the vote?
That guy's name is Ken Griffin.
He's
a lot of money, richest guy in Illinois.
Yes.
I think the political so-called status quo has to be reset. We have to hit the reset button in terms of, we had Brother Eddie Reed on Thursday called Throwback Thursday. And then one of the things he said was that we probably need to establish a third party in terms of, what it is that we really want. I mean, in the state, less than 0.1% of the contracts, Black people. In the county, less than 1%. In the city, less than 3%. And so when you have those kind of dismal numbers, well, Illinois makes up 14% of the state population, which would mean that about $8 billion of that budget should come into the Black community. And all they got last year was $25 million. The whole social service agency field, 800 social service small agencies around the state went out of business. 1,000 mom and pop daycare centers went out of business. 60,000 Black kids lost slots in daycare, all because for 2.5, 3 years there was no budget. And the billionaire Ronna and the millionaire Madigan, they didn't see the suffering and the pain of those people who lost those agencies and lost their little, the average agency was like $85,000 a year. I mean, and 800 of them are wiped out, and 1,000 mom and pop daycare centers wiped out. And so they didn't seem to care in terms of wiping out that small business that 96% of Black businesses only have 1 or 2 employees. And so those small daycares that had a minimum $85,000 is what, $7,000 a month?
Wow.
I mean, that's no money,
That's
but it was helping people pay their mortgage and operate at a small profit and have these little small daycares in their houses.
So if that was, how much did Mr. Pritzker, I think it was like 70 million?
70 million.
70 million.
Mm-hmm.
So see if he didn't use but 25 million of that. Because he didn't get a whole lot of votes. You said over 700,000 people
didn't vote for him.
Vote.
Right.
So we know as a people, very intelligently, we know we need farmland.
Right.
We know we need in our community the business that keep the money there, because we're consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we play games with this whole agenda, Black agenda? I mean, you get on my nerve, not you, but you or whoever, because we know what we need. We need farmland. I mean, we need to grow our own food. I mean, and people buying tomatoes and produce. We need our own. We buying gas. Every gas station we go to, why there are no Black gas stations? So how do we bust into that? How do we force people to say, how could only people from the Middle East have gas stations? Why? How could only the dollar store? Is that us or is that them? I mean, the banks. How do you force banks to play this? Negroes, some of them, brother, they just want, they go in the room and say, can you help me with my credit score? Just help me with my credit score. So they can individually profit. Got nothing to do with, poor people, the quality of life. How do you change that, Harold?
Well, I mean, the sad thing about it is that there's not one Black gas station in the city of Chicago.
Not one.
And we do a lot of driving, and to have not one, and then to look at the mom and pop little grocery stores, and we don't own any of that. And Black,
not one Mariano's, right?
Not one. No.
Not one Whole Foods, right?
No.
Not one Treasure Island.
Nope.
Not one. I know we got some Black sisters that are doing nails, but mainly they go to Asians to get their nails, the wig shops, the Dunkin' Donuts, even Harold's is owned by some of them, even Doc's and J&J and blah blah blah. So, but on a larger scale in terms of employing the youth, where do those jobs come from?
We don't have any, and part of the 5 zip codes in Chicago that all the murder and all the crime is happening in Roseland, Austin, West Humboldt Park, Inglewood, and North Lawndale. All the murders and shootings are coming out of 5 zip codes. 92% of those men that live there are no longer in those zip codes for whatever reason, whether they're locked up or during this term of $1 million blocks that took place between 2007 and 2011. 75% of the black men in those 5 zip codes between 18 and 54 were given 1 or 2 or 3 felony convictions. And so when you say you're going to provide some summer jobs, I mean, that's not something that can sustain grown men. That's not something that can sustain children. I mean, when a town or a zip code is under siege, like you see in Inglewood, North Lawndale, Rosen, Austin, and West Humboldt Park, and you see all the shootings and all the murders and all the robberies taking place in those 5 zip codes, and you see these towns under siege. Well, when is the best time to purchase real estate? When it's like this, when it's under siege and when don't nobody want it. And so that's why that company Pangea has been able to come in and buy 70% of the multi-unit buildings in South Shore.
Who?
Pangea.
Who are they?
That's a Jewish guy hooked up with a Chinese guy who get funding from Wall Street firms, particularly this firm called Blackstone, and Ron is one of the investors.
Oh no!
And they have purchased 70% of every building in South Shore. And so you can see them in North Lawndale. I mean, now I've seen their signs in the south suburbs. And so this brand new company has been in existence maybe 5 years, has basically cornered the market in South Shore, in North Lawndale, in Inglewood, even in the south suburbs like Dalton and Robbins and Markham. You see their signs up. And so the best time to buy real estate is when it's at an all-time low, is when people, when the people ran out of Inglewood, particularly with that Inglewood flyover, I mean, they would say, well, okay, we declared eminent domain. We're going to give you $30,000 for this house. And so people were running out of there. I mean, taking that little $30,000. And when people run out of a neighborhood and they fleece the neighborhood because it's under siege, and that $1.2 billion Inglewood flyover that went over, if you go to 59th and Normal and go to Halsted and go in that area north or south a couple of blocks, it's nothing there.
I know, bro.
I mean, it's a ghost town.
It's amazing, bro.
And so when you have a town or a zip code that's under siege, and then the people say, well, give me anything. I just want out. And the best time to buy real estate is when it's at an all-time low in terms of nobody wants to be there. People are saying, well, just give me $20,000, I'll leave. And that's what's taking place in South Shore right now, from 75th and Stony all the way to the lake. I mean, you see all that other development coming on where they're supposed to be building a brand new little town over there by the water.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Pangea, you can go check the record, has bought 70% of all the real estate that's available in South Shore. And so they get, I think they get something to the tune of $10 or $12 million a year just off the Section 8 property in South Shore.
So Rauner,
he's one of the investors.
One of the investors.
Right.
Now, he's also one of the investors in, I'm going to say, incarceration.
Oh, yeah. His company, GTCR, which he stepped down from, which had a...
So he don't get any profit.
Which had he put all this stuff in trust, but come on, you got to know that $3.5 billion contract they had that stretched across 23 states and 250 jails in America.
Wow.
You got to know that the $100 million contract they had in the Juvenile Detention Center right here in Cook County.
$100 million.
His company, GTCR.
And how? What was they serving?
Well, they were doing
what products?
They were doing the aftercare. They were doing all the medical. They were doing when the kids have issues. They had the psychiatrists. I mean, his company ran all of that, and $100 million.
Now, who signs off on that?
Well, Cook County signed off on the one that 13 juvenile detention centers in Cook County. I mean, I'm sorry, but he has a hand. His company had a hand in that, in the GTCR, that company, that hedge fund company, and they also own Athletico. You see Athletico? Right. Yeah, the things that they own are mind-boggling in terms of the money that he makes. I mean, even his wife, Ounce of Prevention, got $50 million from the state. And when you total
$50 million,
Ounce of Prevention, and when you total all the black social service agencies, it only came to $25 million. And so she by herself got more money than every black social agency in the state. I mean, so at the end of the day,
Harold, procurement
and
the state,
right?
They know exactly. People compete for these contracts.
Right.
They know the percentages.
Right.
And so, who's managing that, or where's the watchdog? Well, I mean, all these people in the unity meeting, where's the watchdogs that say, look, and when you look at the pie, but look at the pie. Based on what you saying, we're getting crumbs.
We're not even getting crumbs. I mean, the crumbs.
Damn, we're not getting crumbs.
Crumbs are falling off the table in terms of the state last year. The state claimed that they had $180 million allocated for black businesses, and they had to give it to a prime company because they couldn't find black businesses to give it to. And so what disqualifies a black person? Well, first of all, they're not MBE. I mean, they don't have the paperwork in place. They don't have this in place. They don't have, and so you always going to have a black person in charge of procurement trying to explain why Negroes ain't getting nothing. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I mean, so I'm sure Ronna has 4 or 5 black people in place that are looking at contracts, and they're going to be the ones to explain and say, well, we had to give back $180 million because we couldn't find nobody.
That's what I'm tired of hearing that.
And that's old, and that's stuff that we should no longer accept. We couldn't find nobody, and at the end of the day, you have black people who sign the front of paychecks, and no black people signing. I mean, you have black people signing the back of paychecks, but very few black people signing the front of a paycheck.
Wow.
And so as long as they're content, Greg, with a 6-figure income where they can sign the back of that check and put on a suit and come in and try to explain away why black people ain't got nothing. I mean, if you look at all the diversity departments like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Juul, it's always a black person in diversity that's explaining why black people ain't got nothing. I mean, all the time. I mean, I don't care where you go. When you go to the head of diversity, it's gonna be somebody that looks just like you and me, and they're gonna sit across the table and tell you why the numbers are so dismal and why we had all of this money for black people, but because they didn't have their paperwork in place, guess what? They couldn't get it. So we had to do what? We had to give it back to the primes. And so
right, and the effort should be, that's why the New Black Leadership Coalition is about, when you look at, we did an inventory and we listed all of these companies who really say they need some additional paperwork, and they got prepared so that when they had the bid out, they would get it. They could get the workers. They got all the other necessary. Are these roadblocks? I mean, because there's been the same companies, I'm almost positive, that continue to get these contracts. It's not like every year they're giving it to somebody different, right?
Oh, no. The Chicago, this fiscal year 2017, was the busiest as far as construction in the world. There were $30 billion of projects going on in Chicago for the year 2017. 1,000 new restaurants, 8,000 new condominiums, downtown, West Loop, South Loop area, and $30 billion in projects. 105 cranes going that were up building at the same time or along the same time for the year. The city of Chicago was voted the #1 city in the world for new construction. 27% of the gross national product in Chicago was spent on construction projects. And guess what? We are not working at none of them. And so what does that tell you? A quarter out of every dollar that was spent in Chicago was spent on new construction projects, and we were not working. I mean, go to the construction sites and look at the license plates. Alaska, Colorado, those journeymen that come here from all over the state, all over the country. And you will see cars with license plates from all over the country. And then you go to that construction site and you see absolutely nobody that looks like us that are working. And then you say, well, the unions are saying that they can't find anybody. And at the end of the day, man, do people I mean, at the end of the day, I think somebody has said, and we haven't got the menu, that we don't care what these Negroes are talking about. We're not going to give them nothing. We're going to starve them out. There's no way in the world $30 billion in projects could have take place in this city in 1 year, and nobody black can point to a finger and say, we had this many blacks on the contract, we had these many people here. And then now you have black contractors, you have Safeway, you have 2-in-1, you have Ernest Brown, and you have Mayman Powers and Sons. And those are the four that have been assigned to the Obama Museum, but they have been assigned to the Obama Museum as construction managers. So they cannot hire one person to work on that project.
What do you mean?
They can't hire any tradesmen because they have signed on as the construction managers. So that means they're going to oversee the project. But at the end of the day,
overseer.
They
That's
can't.
Like the slave.
And then they even said themselves, they went and found Kenny Construction. Since when did a group of Negroes go find somebody white as a prime and say, we want you to be the prime? But you're going to see those names and those four companies pop up on every joint venture in the city of Chicago. And the most dangerous thing that black people can do in any construction project or any construction period is to operate as a pass-through, because that's a self-inflicted wound. That's one of the most violent economic things that a black business person can do is operate as a pass-through, because all this services is the person who owns the company.
Wow. Let me ask you, who represent us then? Do we have representatives that's fighting for this inequality? I mean, think about this. You know, what you just said. I mean, folks, I mean, you can call in, man. I done forgot the number, man. It's 708-223-8953. I mean, that's a shame. Harold, who represent us and really even in the playing field? How do you even this? How? I mean, now, will we be taking food off their table if you gave black folks something? Because or this is just more money for them in the bank and wherever they live at, wherever they come from, and it's just not to interfere with the way of life for them and to keep us in this position. I mean, that's why I said this war, this fight is on two fronts.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to really look at us as black folks.
Oh, we're part of the problem.
Right, because we got people say they activists. You know, what's your activism? You got people say that they organize. What you organizing? And we got people who sit in these rooms. Are they illiterate, or do they really know what you know and what you just, wisely articulated? Or do they know? I mean, are they qualified to represent us, or do they know and they just scared and they satisfied with some wings? They don't want a bucket of chicken. They don't want a franchise at all. They just want a wing. That's what we got. Or they just want to be in the room.
To operate as a pass-through is like I said, one of the most violent economic and inflicted wounds that you do to yourself.
Right.
I mean, when Aramark asked me to do it and I wouldn't do it, and they took my contract, and I had 120 people that I had hired, and I told them, I said, well, you know, they don't want me to do the contract. They identified somebody for me to pass it through. And so when I refused to pass it through, you know, they said, we're going to give you $217,000 a year for 4 years. The 3 years, then we're going to up it up to about $320,000. In the final 3 years, we're going to do about $400,000. And so, I mean, that's good money in terms of when somebody's saying that they're going to give this to you.
Right.
And all they're asking to do is use your checking account. And all they're asking you to do is act as a front person, that when they purchase something, they use it to go through your checking account as though you purchased it.
Do we have some of those folks now?
99% of black businesses, that's how they operate.
99%.
That's how they operate. I mean, because we don't, because so if I had took the pass-through operation, and I refused to do it because I understood what selling commissary to the jail was. I understood that when you buy a truckload of Pepsi or Coke, the pop industry gives you 2 free truckloads. That's why pop is always on sale in every grocery store in America that you go to, because that's what they do. So you buy a truckload, they give you 2 truckloads. And so it's always, you have never been in a store where pop has never been on sale.
Wow.
Then Frito-Lay, which is owned by Pepsi, makes hot Cheetos and Frito-Lay and all that stuff. You buy a truckload of that, then they give you a couple truckloads. And so a bag of Doritos that sells in the county jail for 99 cents, actually in the commissary would have cost me 3 cents.
What?
3 cents. That would have been my cost for a bag of Doritos. And so in that commissary, there's about $400,000 to $450,000 made per week profit. And so that's an entity that I don't even believe that the county is even looking at those numbers in terms of, funding the jails. And so if you buying ramen soup and you buying it by the truckloads, and you probably paying a nickel to a dime for it, but on the county sheet is like 99 cents. And so, but I know for a fact what a 20-ounce pop costs, about 7 cents. I know for a fact what a bag of Doritos costs, 3 cents. I mean, that's my cost. And so when you understand,
so the profit margin is like that,
the profit margin is off the hook, man. It's off the hook. And so it's criminal to charge or tax people that have aunties and grandmothers and girlfriends and wives putting money on the books, and that product does not go to the jail until it's paid in full. It does not go until that money is on the books, and then you run, you fill the order, and then you send it down to the county jail. And so it was an insult to me to say that over a 9-year period I had a $36 million contract, and you're going to pay me approximately $800,000. And when I know for a fact out of $36 million, I could have made $30 million profit. So I know that for a fact that I know how that stuff go because I was in that business.
But so Harold, what black elected official, what group, what office that oversees this stuff is just quiet?
Well, those county commissioners.
The county commissioners. And I know one of them who was talking about bringing the National Guards here, and he supposedly was one of the main people. He lost his gig to
Brandon Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you just go to a county board meeting, just go to a city hall meeting, go to a state board meeting, and when you get the agenda, most times it's 150, 200 pages. And from that agenda, that 150, 200 pages is just payouts. It's just payout after payout after payout for services. I mean, and so when you look at when you look at the fact that we're not involved in those payouts, I mean, you say, well, all of those meetings are nothing but voting on who they're going to pay. And so go to a county board meeting and just get the agenda, and they're going to give you something about that thing. And then you're going to see millions and millions of dollars on there that's paid to somebody. And you're going to be like, the services. And so these services, I mean, when Tony Pretwinkle took the county board position as president, the budget was $1.8 billion. Now it's somewhere around $5 billion. I mean, they had 4 jail directors when she took over. Now there are over 210 jail directors. There's a director of flowers, a director of gardening, a director of toilet paper. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, so
damn, man.
So
a director like that many?
They went from 4 jail directors to 210.
See, folks that are tuned in, that's why you got to share this. The New Black Leadership Coalition and the Butt Naked Truth right here on Intellectual Radio. We are about giving information. See, if you're not talking about this, you're not disseminating this, how could you be an activist? How could you be an organizer? How could you say you represent us? No, Or are you afraid?
No, I mean, at the end
are
of the
you
day,
afraid to disclose this, expose individuals?
We should have people sitting in these meetings. We should have people sitting in CHA, sitting in the Park District. I mean, sitting in these sister agencies where CHA is divvying up $2 billion. I mean, the Park District divvying up $1.8 billion. And you go to these meetings and you see the divvying of the funds on these agendas. You're like, well, man, I didn't know there's a guy that gets paid $500,000 a year to check the refrigerating, to check the temperature on the refrigerators in the cafeteria at the county jail.
How much?
$500,000. And
he checked the what?
To check the temperature inside the freezer for the antifreeze level.
So he just opened the door.
He comes in at 2:30 in the morning. He checks the temperature, and at 3:30 he's back in the bed, and he gets $500,000 a year for that. And he don't look like me or you, and he lives somewhere out in Plainfield somewhere.
I'm done. And we had a unity breakfast meeting. On what?
To do what? There was no gain in this election that black people can point to. Name one. What was the gains that we can say we won, and we actually can point to something that said it was the Democratic Party that had the gains, and those who the Democratic Party supported. I mean, at the end of the day, there were no gains that black people could point to in that election, in that primary, and say we won something. I mean, I don't see anything that we benefited from.
Bro, that's why I don't miss your show.
I don't see anything, bro.
Hey, bro, my lunch is already scheduled. I tell people my lunch meets, please schedule it around the time that the Butt Naked Truth is on the air from 2 o'clock, man, because look what you're saying. I mean, and how could we fix all of this stuff politically? And we talking about vote, and you hear other folks on other shows running their mouth, but they not. So the other question is, and I got to put this out here in terms of what steps do we need to take? What action can that needs to happen? Real activism. What? I mean, do you vote? Because when I hear we got to vote him out of office, what else can we do to change this?
The thing that we need to do is tell J.B. Pritzker that you don't have to wait to be elected to partner with us. Tell Ronna you don't have to wait to be elected to partner with us.
Teach.
And there are some things in the black community that we want black people to be able to do, and that we don't want to go through all this red tape about we can't do this and we can't do that. There are things that we can do, brother, in our community that black people can do it themselves.
Wow.
And we need to put that on the agenda with both of them and bring both of them to the table and see which one wants to support the agenda of black people. And if they're not going to do that, then they're going to tell you they're going to bring Jamie Ree in to talk about procurement. They're going to bring 4 or 5 black guys in to talk about the state budget and how to do business with the state. Why is it that every week we got these people coming in on how to do business with the county, with the state, and with the city? And at the end of the day, our numbers are just as dismal as they were 20 years ago.
Wow. Earl, does somebody want to be on the air? Is that the FBI? I heard Mr. say, it's Gregory say, yo.
Mr. Sane.
Michael was here too.
We
asking for my name over there. Hell.
We just having a frank discussion about what's true.
No, man, hell. Look, I gotta say this, folks, and I want to look at the people. Y'all see me right there over iHeartRadio, YouTube, and the people that's watching via Facebook Live and other places. You gotta die from something, and you're gonna die anyway. So why the hell are you so scared to do what's right? How could you claim our ancestors? How could you say you love your people and you're afraid? What is it? What is it? Don't be afraid, man, to tell the truth, because what we're doing is trying to make humanity better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing.
And
if we don't do this, you dig, you got people on it. That's why I use the word, they was disingenuous. That, you know, and it means not candid or sincere. So when you get in these rooms claiming to represent us as a people, you're lying. You're playing games. And that's why I'm telling some of you all that secretly watch this show. Secretly. I got to say this. I said this to somebody today. They said, where you get your strength from? I said, you say you dig Malcolm. I got the same damn teachers he had.
Exactly.
The same teachers, Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Hell, man, we got that you should be getting, at least studying to know, you know, that your eyes are closed to truth. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I mean, it's one thing that you can articulate this, Harold, but it's another thing that you're doing things to employ the youth. That's what I did. You got people working. You deal with people in the community that don't nobody talk to. They would never be working. They got letters on their back that everybody just throw them away. And we are damn fool, man, to not, you know, fight the power with that kind of mess. How could they get out the joint? And how much they get out the joint and you just throw them away, man. Ain't no damn rehabilitation.
I mean, they're going to be running down to Memphis next week, talking about 50 years after King.
Oh, man, Dr. King should slap the hell out of all of them.
The current,
man, get the hell out of here.
The Kerner Commission report, they just reevaluated that. And so
they make me want to throw up.
They came back and said that in 1968, Black people were better off in 68 as far as jobs, opportunities, school, and housing than they are today.
More married.
Exactly. So they're saying we are worse off today than we were 50 years ago. I mean, in terms of the Black home ownership, 40-50% of the Black folks lost their houses during the mortgage crisis and didn't recover. I mean, every ethnic group recovered in terms of regaining the equity in their houses but us. And so we didn't recover. And so when Blackstone came in and they were raising $450-500 million a week on Wall Street, coming in and buying blocks of houses in Dalton, blocks of houses in Cal City, blocks of houses in Country Club Hills, and blocks of houses in Inglewood. And guess what? Renting them back to the people who they took them from. Because the people said, what? Well, we've been in the house 20 years. Can we at least rent it? And so every ethnic group has recovered. And the Kerner Commission report that was 50 years ago, and they did a reevaluation of that report that said Black people were better off in 1968 than they are today, 2018. So we're in the Jubilee system, Jubilee celebration of 50 years, and Negroes are going to be talking about what they did.
No, this is what they're going to be doing. Give me your arm. Give me your arm. Right. This is what they're going to be doing. They're going to be locked in. We shall overcome. That's what they gonna do.
Exactly.
While Black people suffer, you're gonna see the same shady, shyster, Negro hustlers, con men at the front of the line. In front, the media love those clowns because they know they're deceivers of the people, knowing that Dr. King, I know he turned it over in his grave, that you got the same clown. Our people have went backwards, and you got some of these same clowns. They got television shows. They become millionaires off the backs of Black people while we shall overcome. Oh, is the call on? Let me hit the button. Let's see who it is. Might be one of the shysters. Hello, caller. How you doing?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Now let me ask Harold a question. He said when you go to fill out for contracts, right? And if you don't dot every I and every T, then you are rejected, right?
Yeah.
So Okay, do they have a class where when you go in and they know people coming in to fill out for the contract, do they have anyone there to help?
Well, I don't know if it's a issue of the help. I think it's an issue of frustration that most of these certifications require 75 to 100 pages, and it's just the frustration of filling out these papers and going over and over again to prove that you're black. I mean, I just assume to say, you know what, let's just let everybody bid on what they need to bid on, and because when they gave this affirmative action plan, trust me, they didn't make it where it was going to be easy. They made it where it's very difficult in terms of being certified and getting these MBEs and all the stuff that they require you to do. But it's I think it's more so the frustration of like old business guys, the guys that have been in business 25, 30, 40 years, they've never been through that process, but they do business word of mouth. And they'll tell you, they say, I'm not going down there to fill out all that paperwork. I'll just keep operating the way I operate. And you got a lot of, well, it's becoming, it stinks shortly, but you got black businessmen that been in business for 30 and 40 years that have never went through the process. Never.
So do they make it easy for set aside for women, minorities, or?
Well, mostly white women, they minorities too. So what you'll find with that is you'll find white guys that own companies, and then they'll put their wives and make another dummy company, make their wife the president of that company, and then they end up bidding in that process. But if you got resources, to get through the process, then obviously it's a lot easier. But I think most people shun away from it, and then it's used as a tool to basically keep you disinterested in even trying to do the paperwork.
Wow, they discourage the people.
They discourage you, yeah.
Man.
So is it easy for someone that has good credit to get a loan, even if they don't have finances, but they have good credit and they can get finances to either go into business?
Well, I mean, you can have good credit, but there are no banks in Chicago loaning money to black people. I mean, even the bank that the Ghanaians bought, First Federal, they said they only loaning money to buy houses. They're not loaning. They're not loaning any business any money. And so I don't know what kind of bank that's supposed to be, but at the end of the day, I don't know any bank in the city of Chicago that a black person can take a business plan to and get a loan at this point.
Thank you, caller. I love your questions.
I love you too. Thank you.
Man,
You're welcome,
very intelligent questions.
I mean, you can have good ideas, but you can have good credit. The question is that nobody's willing to loan money.
We got about 3-4 minutes to go, Brother Harold. And look, let me tell you something. This is one show that I got to go back and write down some of the stuff that you said, because any intelligent person who claimed to be a leader, a representative, or activist, blah blah blah, so-called leader, when you mentioned the thing in Memphis, honestly, man, that struck a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come on the show, man, and kind of deal with that and how I really feel about such foolishness in terms of playing with the legacy of such a wonderful and great human being as Dr. King, and these clowns who have totally turned their back on the poor have the audacity to show up with that same stupid stuff, marching as though, man, like slaves. But anyway, I'm gonna give you the last few minutes, bro. You can tell people with your lineup, that's coming up on your show, so that they could tune in, man. And I know me and Minister Mike, we do commentaries, yeah. On Thursday, Friday. Love it. But go ahead, Brother Harold.
Well, Tuesday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. We tell the butt naked truth. That's how we do it. You don't sugarcoat. They don't water it down. No, and they call a spade a spade. Right, they let you know that one is a fox, the other one is a wolf. Right. They tell you that, yeah, you voted for Satan, but they voted for Lucifer. Right. Right. And until we become self-sufficient, man. I I don't see us getting out of anything, brother.
Self-sufficient.
We have to become self-sufficient, and that's something that we're not willing to do.
Wow, man. Thank you, Brother Harold.
Thank you, Brother Greg.
Brother Harold Davis from the But Naked Truth. You're not going to get this kind of information on no station, period, because we're not calling people fantastic, wonderful, you're great, love you, brother, but the time is up for playing games. You got to expose these con men and these weaklings. Anyway, you're listening to the New Black Leadership Coalition here at the greatest program radio network, IntellectualRadio.com, with one of the best producers on the planet, Mr. Earl Winfrey.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Peace and love.